So without further ado, Judge Oliver.
Good evening. I told Hassan, I told him, don't do that. I really did, and I meant it, but I appreciate your kind introduction. It's good to be here with all of you, to the members of the commission, to the chairs of the commission, to the members of the representatives of the city who I see here tonight, and the United States Department of Justice, to the members of the monitoring team, to the citizens of the city of Cleveland who are here because they're interested in the city's well-being, and the citizens who contribute so much to that. I say thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here with you. I've not come to commission meetings for a reason. I'll explain that to you. As a judge, I think I understand the role, the important role that the commission has played and continues to play in overseeing, helping to make sure with the other partners that the requirements of the consent decree are fulfilled, and that police are following best practices and the community is engaging with the police. I want you to be able to do that work without interference. And so I've decided that I would not come. I would not be a part of that. I would let you have your input directly with the city and Department of Justice and with the monitor. And if there was a time that I needed to make hard decisions, I want to be in a position to make those, but I wanted those to come to me without any kind of bias or orientation, presupposition about how things would work. But when I was invited tonight to be part of this celebration, and I would call it celebration, I immediately decided that this was the right time. This was the right time for me to be here with you. It's not because I'm afraid to share my thoughts or ideas. It's not because I'm afraid to hear yours. I assure you that's not the case. But I wanted to make sure that the process that was provided for in the decree was carried out in the best possible way. So it's good. It's good to be here with you. You are a partner in this enterprise with the city, with the Justice Department, with me, the court, and with the monitors, and seeing that the requirements of this decree are fulfilled. And it's not just a decree, but it's a decree which is meant to accomplish something very important, and that is to ensure that policing that goes on in this community is fair and is unbiased, and at the same time is safe as it can be for the officers and for the community. And so that's important to me. It's important to me that you have played and you continue to play this role as a partner. And I do mean that when I say you've been a partner and you are a partner in this enterprise. The city, of course, has the first responsibility and the primary responsibility. It is their responsibility to make sure that the requirements of the decree are carried out. And it's their responsibility to cooperate with the Department of Justice to see that it happens. But the monitor plays a big role in that process, as you know. And the monitor reports to me. The monitor is my eyes and ears on the ground. And the monitor, Chief Hayden and his staff, keep me apprised of developments, of how things are going, at least from their perspective, and give me some sense of how the parties are interacting. And so I appreciate the role, the very important role that they play, that the monitor plays. Not every consent decree provides for this kind of citizen involvement, But I do think that the parties, when they were working out this decree, made a wise choice, a very wise choice, in including the commission as a central part of what of the structure that was put into place. What better than to have input, valuable input from interested, talented, and caring citizens such as yourselves? What better than that? And I appreciate it. I do appreciate your input, and I want to make sure you understand that. Now, I'm standing here in front of you, and the question is, who is this judge that's overseeing, so to speak, this decree? Who is this judge that serves kind of as the backstop for what's going on? Now, Hassan told you a lot about me, and I'm not going to go through all that. But I would say I think it's important that you know a little bit about me and who I am and what I'm like. And he told you that I grew up in Bessemer, Alabama. And he said 5 brothers and sisters, but 5 brothers and 4 sisters, so it's 10 of us. That's where I grew up. Now, I don't mind telling my age. It's getting up there. But I was born in 1947. So that gives you some sense that I actually did live in the South during a time when it was thoroughly segregated. It was a time when if a white person had a job, if I had a job I wanted that a white person wanted, there was no way I could get that job. Schools were subpar, resources were not provided to us in the same degree. Sometimes there were no resources at all in terms of parks and swimming pools and those kinds of things. And I lived in a city that was 55% African American, but there were no black police officers, there were no black bus drivers, there were no black city officials. That's the kind of city and environment that I grew up in. So I could have learned lessons of meanness and hate. But because of my parents, because of my other relatives, uncles and aunts, we learned lessons of hope, and we learned lessons of fairness. And we were taught, when the world around us suggested that we were nobody, they were told we were somebody. And that was years and years ago. But we were taught that. And our teachers taught us that. And all of my teachers were African American because, as I said before, it was entirely black school system. And so we came to believe not in what was going on in America, but really kind of the American dream. And I don't mean an idle dream, but the dream that says, like in the Declaration, all persons are created equal, and they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among them is life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. We knew that we weren't getting those rights, but we believed in those rights. And so it's been a lifelong quest to make sure that the promise of the Declaration, which really wasn't a promise to African Americans, and which wasn't at the time a promise to women, for example, who were denied the right to vote, but the underlying notion of equality, that's what we're talking about. The concept, the ideal, that's what we believed in, that we were taught to believe in. And so we were taught that no race, that no religion, that no nationality, and no sex has a monopoly on talent, and neither should they have a monopoly on opportunity. And so that is why we were taught to push ahead, that one day things were going to be better, and that we were part of the solution, and we were to fight to ensure that those things happen. And that's what our parents did. And so I come committed, have always been, to ensuring the promise of the Declaration, the real promise, the promise of the Constitution, equal protection and due process. That's my background. That's my orientation. And so, as a judge, I take an oath. And the oath goes something like this. that I will administer justice without respect to persons and do equal right to the poor and the rich, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all the duties incumbent upon me as a United States District Judge under the Constitution and laws of the United States. And then we say, so help me God. Well, every public official takes an oath, something like that. Not exactly the same, whether it's the mayor or whether it's a policeman. Take an oath, something like that. And when we take that oath, we should all mean it. It's an important public post. It's important to our society. And so if a person takes that oath, whether it's the mayor, a policeman, a police person, or the judge, and they don't mean it, they ought to step down. Because that is what, the oath has meaning. It has meaning. And so I take it seriously. I expect others in the public service to take it seriously, and that goes throughout, including police officers who serve us in our community. And many of them, I know, many of them take it seriously. But that is what we expect. It's a starting place, because being a police officer is a hard job. It is a difficult job. It is an important job. But the starting place is to start with an orientation that is fair, that is service-oriented, that understands the importance of the oath. Just like I take the oath, I expect others to take that oath seriously. Now, let me just make a few comments about what we're looking for. We know that we're looking for unbiased officers, and this decree requires training in that area, and that's already starting and being undertaken. And we know that it requires training of all types, and that training, as I understand it, is excellent. Let me say a bit about training. You know, this is not something that we're just putting on police officers as extra responsibility. I think that most officers understand that it is better for them to go into the field understanding how to deal with various situations so that they are not in harm's way and so that they don't put others in harm's way when they should not be. I think they understand that. And this training is aimed at that. It's not anti-police at all. It's aimed at improving things for both the citizen and the police officer. And I certainly hope that all understand that. Now, there's also some talking about community policing. I think that the best police practices clearly recognize that if the officers are working in the community and with the community, that the community will come to trust them as they come to trust the people in the community. It's pretty easy to understand that if a police officer comes into the community and I think the police officer is an enemy, I'm not going to be cooperating to share information about crimes or about anything else in that community. But if I feel that police officer is supportive, that the police officer is serving the community, if I feel like I understand the police officers are there to do that job, I want safety like anybody else. I want people to be law-abiding like anybody else. But it takes that kind of trust between officer and community for police officers to be effective in doing their jobs. And so everywhere I go when I have a chance, I want to make sure I say that this decree is a positive step, that it is a forward-looking step, that it works. Its primary purpose is to make sure that citizens are protected, that police officers, the best we can do it, are safe, and that officers are not viewed as enemies in the community, but they are viewed as they are in many communities, and sometimes in many of our own communities, as friends, as helpers, as protectors. It's important. It's important work. And so the commission has been right in the center of that work. And I've been brought up to date about some of your work. I don't know all of it. But the search and seizure area, for example, is one that I've heard about over and over again, about the contribution that this commission has made in offering suggestions and critiquing proposals and plans. And thank you for doing that. Thank you for all the work that you have done. Let me conclude. I don't know how many minutes you put me down for, but I think I've used most of them. If I haven't, I'll yield them back. Let me just conclude by saying, without the cooperation by citizens and police, it can be dangerous for police and citizens. In my view, a bias-free, well-trained force that has healthy interaction with the community it serves is a necessary condition to our realization of the ideals of the Declaration of the Constitution. But it's not sufficient to fully realize that promise, across our society. We must all be dedicated throughout society to the principles that undergird those documents, recognizing full well that many in our society have not received that promise. So let's do that. Let's work not just in regard to making the police work and the interactions between police and the community the best that it can be, but let's commit ourselves across society to the ideals of the Declaration and the Constitution. And we know of slavery, and we know of its aftermath, and we know of problems that we deal with today, and we're not putting our heads in the sand. I don't want to be accused of that because that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm suggesting. There are problems to be tackled. But if we are all committed to those principles, I think we can make this a better world, a better city, and provide opportunities for all, regardless of their race, their religion, their nationality, their orientation. So again, congratulations to all who served to date on the commission and are leaving or have left the commission. Welcome to those who will be coming on, although I think they haven't been chosen. And may the ongoing work of the commission be both enjoyable and fruitful. That's directed to the director and those who will continue. Thank you very much.